Go ahead, please. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank committee members for having invited the National Association of Federal Retirees to speak today. I would like to begin by recognizing that I and my colleagues are joining you from Ottawa, the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, who have lived on this land since time immemorial. For those who aren't familiar with the association, the National Association of Federal Retirees is the largest national advocacy organization representing active and retired members of the Federal Public Service, Canadian Armed Forces, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and retired federally appointed judges, as well as their partners and survivors.
More than 70,000 members, including over 60,000 veterans and their families, the association has advocated for improvements to the financial security, health, and well-being of our members and all Canadians for nearly 60 years. Federal Retirees is also proud to co-chair the Women's Veterans Research and Engagement Network, or WREN. WREN's mission is to work collaboratively to ensure equitable lifetime outcome for all veterans. I am here with Association CEO, Mr. Anthony Pizzino, and our Staff Advocacy and Policy Officer, Mr. Patrick Imbeau. I will share my time with Mr. Pizzino, and we will all be pleased to respond to questions committee members may have. Our remarks today are supplemented by a written brief, and our association stands by to participate in other areas identified for study by this committee. Anthony?
Thank you, Jean-Guy. Thank you, committee members, Mr. Chair, for your time today. The Canadian Forces Superannuation Act and the Superannuation Acts for the RCMP and Federal Public Service have provisions for survivor pensions that are paid to eligible surviving spouses of contributors or pension plan members. The limitation of if plan members marry or begin to cohabit with their spouses after age 60 in the case of the Canadian Armed Forces or RCMP, or after retirement in the case of Federal Public Service, has been important to members of federal retirees for decades. While the legislation is rooted in the turn of the 20th century, it's important to look at how pension legislation and regulations have evolved and to consider changes to the factors that impact pensions, including longevity and workforce participation. While veterans, retirees, and their spouses are affected by this difficulty, as our brief details, this is a complex pension policy matter that requires thorough study and assessment before proceeding with any changes. It is essential to have clear, accurate data to define the extent of this concern and to inform any potential solutions and their potential consequences. The importance of this data cannot be underscored enough. We are talking about hard-earned pensions of both serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces and the RCMP. Pension plans rely on the balance between contributions and investment returns to fund appropriate levels of benefits. In 2015 and 2017, the federal government committed via ministerial mandate letters to eliminate the marriage after 60 clawback clause. In its 2019 budget, the government established a $150 million fund for the veteran survivors to be administered by Veterans Affairs to work with a community to identify impacted survivors and to ensure they have adequate financial support. Little information is available in this initiatives, and veterans and their survivors deserve accountability and transparency. To know what has happened with those funds so that what they can expect going forward. We have noted that veterans and survivors affected by this issue are often taken unawares. It is, in our view, clear evidence that retirement preparation and planning and pension communication needs to be comprehensive and clearer. Committee members, the brief demonstrates that veterans have been promised that this would be addressed for too long. They deserve answers, and I'm pleased to see that the committee is studying this. I and my colleagues would be pleased to respond to your questions and to provide further information on the topic. Thank you.